I'm here to talk to you about whether or not it makes financial sense to garden when you are a renter. That's what I do, so obviously I'm gonna be on the pro side of it. I'm gonna be for it, but I also love to play devil's advocate. So I posted a picture recently on Facebook. The reason that I'm bringing this up is I posted a picture about this recently on Facebook. I posted a series of pictures of my garden before and after last year. I'll show you. And my caption was, to all the renters out there who are hesitant to put the work in since, quote, we won't be here for long, or you won't put in the work for a yard that you don't own, here's your sign to do it anyway. These are pictures from one summer. We moved May of last year. Lots can happen in 4 months. And then I posted a couple of before pictures, and then at like the height in July, end of July, of my garden, and my veggie garden as well. The vast majority of the comments on this post were very, very positive. Like 99% of comments were very positive, but of course the one that's kind of negative sticks out, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm not going to show their name, but they said, beautiful. However, I wouldn't pay to improve my landlord's property unless he was taking it off the rent. I have, however, planted grass and a few flowers to make it look nice, but what you've done there is thousands of dollars and many hours of work. She continued, but that's kind of the main meat of the comment. First and foremost, I did not spend thousands of dollars on this garden. I was very fortunate to have my landlord. We moved in and they were still renovating the place. They had been renovating it inside when we moved in, and they needed to wait for the ground to thaw in order to put up some fencing that they wanted to do. And also my landlords are big gardeners. And so behind the fence, you can see like before, behind the fence back there, they put some 8x16 beds that is shared between a lot of people on our cul-de-sac, and they gave me one of the beds, and they filled that bed with soil. Now the soil was, and the compost was free. They got from the city landfill because we have a composting program, and there's a mushroom farm just north of the city that you can get free compost from, and they filled it with that. I dug it, I tilled it, I planted it, but they had the wood and the dirt, and they gave that to me, which was free, but typically would cost money. The rest of everything that I did was seed starts. I did buy some stuff from Superstore, and then a little bit of Miracle-Gro fertilizer, which apparently you're not supposed to be using, but that's what I used, and my crops are beautiful. So anyway, it wasn't thousands of dollars, but it was probably hundreds of dollars. I will say that, and I spent it over the duration of the summer. But the question is, should I have spent that money on a house that I don't own? Does it make sense for me to spend hours of manual labor? If you look from this picture to that picture, edging the stones, edging the pathway, moving the stones for the rock garden, this entire patio here, that was a lot of work. Does it make sense for me to do that if I don't own it? I have been renting for so long. I've been renting since I moved out when I was 17 years old. And every single place that I've ever lived, I've at least made sure that I have like some sort of a pot with plants in it, or, you know, I have a dog, so a lot of places have had yards. I have gardened in those spaces. Have I been wasting my money this whole time? I don't think so. I really don't think so. Number one, the reason why I don't think so, I'm gonna get into it. Number one, the reason I don't think that I wasted my money on my garden last year is because gardening is hard. And while yes, it is expensive and it can be expensive, being able to grow your knowledge while you wait for the house that you're about to eventually live in. If I were to have waited 17 to, I'm turning 30 this year, almost 15 years to start my journey gardening, I would either have lost interest in it, or I would, if I was, like, I have had years. I remember there's 2 years I lived in this crappy little place that had a front bed, and I planted vegetables, broccoli, zucchini, everything. Nothing grew. Nothing grew. I didn't amend the soil. I didn't know anything about that. It took me probably 5 years to learn about soil health. And now I'm learning year over year what does well, how to plant a garden, and how to plant a garden in different areas. I've lived I've moved a lot, and I've lived in a bunch of different places that are north facing, south facing, having to figure out where the sun is, what works, and I'm still learning. Last year, after all of these years I've had of learning how to garden, was probably the biggest and obviously the greatest reward, but it was the biggest failure I've had. I had to plant things and move them 3 or 4 times because I just didn't pay attention to where the sun was. These are massive mistakes that I'm glad that I learned before I owned my property, or that I'm glad that I learned them. Of course I would be happy. I would much prefer to not be paying somebody else's mortgage, but while I'm waiting, I'm glad that I'm learning along the way. It's a very long-winded way to say that while I'm waiting for my home, I'm glad that I'm learning how to garden along the way. You cannot beat the learning that experience gives you. You cannot teach or watch videos and learn from other people's experience nearly as well as you can your own. And every year that you have to learn, especially about something that you love or a hobby, is not a year wasted. It's not money wasted. I don't believe it is. Next, gardening is a fantastic way to improve your mental health. There's something very grounding about obviously being in the dirt, in the soil. Now, there are studies about the actual electric, like walking barefoot. Okay, so I just looked up walking barefoot benefits energy scholar. And I'm gonna go to this because sometimes when you put like Google Scholar, you'll get like actual articles. So this is the National Institute of Health. The abstract says, multidisciplinary research has revealed that electrical conductive contact of the human body with the surface of the earth, grounding or earthing, produces intriguing effects on physiology and health. Such effects relate to inflammation, immune responses, wound healing, prevention and treatment of chronic inflammatory and autoimmune disease. The purpose of this report is twofold: to inform researchers about what appears to be a new perspective to the study of inflammation, and 2, to alert researchers that the length of time and degree of grounding of experimental animals is important but usually overlooked factor that can influence outcomes of studies of inflammation, wound healing, and tumorigenesis. Let's look to the bottom. Grounding reduces pain and alters the number of circulating neutrophils and lymphocytes, and also affects various circulating chemical factors related to inflammation on the brain. Now, I first learned about this, the idea of grounding and the benefits here. I gotta stop this recording. I first learned about the benefits of grounding from some sort of a YouTube video or something that somebody was really struggling with inflammation and chronic pain. And he was also like a biomechanical engineer, or he was working in some sort of human biology sphere. And he wanted to do some sort of a experiment where he tied a copper wire to his toe, went out the window, grounded it in the ground with a metal spike, and went to bed, and found that the benefits of literally grounding, like grounding as in like a circuit, was, and he took like scans of his body of like spots of inflammation before and after, and it was very obvious that this grounding was helpful. And you can see videos of people all over the place being like, you should walk barefoot. Barefoot is so good for you. And now that you've watched this video, I'm sure your algorithm's going to push that to you. But there's nothing that beats actually experiencing it for yourself. And yes, does it drive my fiance crazy that my feet are always dirty? Do you have to wash your feet before you go to bed at night? Yes. But the benefits outweigh that water bill, I think, for sure. The benefits that tending to a garden have had on my mental health and my physical health are remarkable. I work in marketing. I spend all day in a room behind a computer, and the mental health benefits that tending to a garden have had on my life, I can't really put into word, and there's no real way for me to like measure it other than just to anecdotally say that waking up in the morning, right now in the winter, I wake up and the first thing I think of is my coffee, and then I'm like, okay, now I have to go to the gym because moving my body obviously helps my mental health as well. But when I wake up in the morning, the first thing that I do is, yes, I turn my coffee on, but I go out to my garden and I sit in my garden. I look at what needs to happen. Do I need to weed today? How's the water? Is it still, looking saturated from the night before? Do I need to give it a second watering? Is anything growing? Has anything changed overnight? Maybe it's like the maternal side of me that really loves it, but it's also just like supremely satisfying. It's so satisfying. It's like scratching an itch. You watch those videos of people like cutting soap or with slime or whatever, that same feeling you get from watching a plant grow, giving it, like when you fertilize a plant and then 1 week later when you go to fertilize it again, it's so much bigger, so much greener. Or if your plant, for example, gets a little bit yellow, maybe it's like missing a little bit of nutrients, or you underwater something and it's like almost dying. You water it. Some flowers will start wilting. You water it, 2 hours later, it's back up. You tell me that's not satisfying. Mental health wise, it really just like does something for you. If you don't believe me, try it yourself. You might hate it, but whatever. And there's other physiological things. They say benefits of gardening for seniors. There's like a bunch of studies that go like, it helps improve an independent lifestyle. It also says it improves mental alertness, reduces blood pressure. I'm telling you, that's that inflammation thing. Being in a garden, slowing down, turning your phone on. You can still have a podcast in, sure. You're not looking at your phone when you're looking at a plant. Increased muscle strength. If you struggle with mobility or you struggle with getting out for exercise, weeding, tilling, planting, standing up, sitting down, watering is way more than just sitting on your couch. Even if it is limited or you need things that help you with making certain things easier, just getting out of your house, getting vitamin D, walking around is way better for your mobility than just sitting in your home is. Decreased risk of coronary artery disease. I don't know what that means. I was reading all of these things. And then the other obvious benefit is that if you're growing vegetables, they always say grow vegetables that you like, you'll be adding veggies into your diet. So if you think about the cost of therapy, if you think about the cost of ibuprofen or physiotherapy or going to a gym or paying for vitamin D pills or red light stuff on your face or Reiki, or what else are you doing? Paying for vegetables. You're spending time, you're spending money in other places, and gardening can give you all that in one good go. The downside, yeah, you put in work that doesn't last forever, but I hate to tell you, your garden that you plant in the home that you own is going to have to be redone eventually anyway, and chances are you made a couple mistakes that you'll need to fix. So, all that to say, long-winded video, I don't think it's a waste of money to garden in a rental. I really don't. And if the worst thing is that you help someone else out by improving their property value, that's not so bad. It would be worse if you were decreasing their property value. I think just like in terms of like being a good person. But the benefits of gardening in my life have far outweighed the cost of my labor and the cost of buying plants and fertilizer and a bit of soil. What is that saying? Like you cut off your nose to spite your face. You're so worried about helping somebody else out that you harm your own life. Through being really worried about what's yours and what's not yours. The land's not yours anyway. And that's a different philosophical debate. But conclusion of this video. It's taken me a long time to say, you're not wasting money. You're growing, you're learning, you're reducing your inflammation, you are improving your mobility, you are improving your mental health, you're improving your cognitive faculties, learning about plants, learning about different plants, what something looks like, how to fix it. These are all great things that help your neuroplasticity, stay young, stay sharp. I'm having a hard time finding a negative, other than the fact that it helps somebody else out, or maybe costs a few dollars. But there are always ways that you can garden cheaply. Get on those Facebook groups. Lots of people give away plants. Lots of people trade. And in your city, especially if you live where I live, there's a lot of free ways to get soil. And if you have a windowsill, you don't need fancy lights to start seeds. And a lot of seeds you can sow right in the ground. So, all that to say, All right, that girl's wrong. Thanks for listening. Bye.